Welcome and ni hao to our squug world. Remember, a squug is a big squishy hug, which is what we would give you if you were here in person. Thank you so much for joining us again on Cry, Laugh, Eat, Making Friends with Your Emotions. My name is Ruth.
And I'm Helen. We're so glad to have you here today to share a piece of your day with us while we talk about making friends with your emotions. Ruth is dancing over there. It's lots of fun here in this room. We talk about 6 core emotions: fear, sadness, disgust, anger, happiness and surprise. Each week we'll explore one emotion with you and cover a little bit of that emotion, and then we move on through the emotions through a 6-week cycle. And today, the emotion we are shining the light on is surprise.
When I think of surprise, that's the noise I hear in my mind, and the visuals I have is, like a party and everyone going, surprise!
Yeah.
But there is so much more to surprise.
There is. And did you know that when we experience surprise, we freeze physically for 1/25th of a second?
Quarter of a second. How do they measure those things?
I know. Also, another fact, recent research about the brain show that surprises intensify our emotions by up to 400%.
Whoa.
That's a lot.
So surprise is the briefest of emotions at a quarter of a second, but the most intense at up to 400% more than you normally would feel. That's pretty amazing.
It is very interesting.
And when we share the list of the 6 core emotions, a lot of people are surprised when we actually include surprise in that list. Fear, sadness, disgust, anger, happiness, those are ones that most people would have on the list. But when we mention surprise, you see a look of surprise, don't you, Helen, on people's faces? Yeah.
We don't always think of it as an actual emotion.
No. And some love surprises. Some people love them. And others feel very uncomfortable with surprises. They like the security and safety of knowing that everything is constant and steady. And by the end of this episode, we hope that you'll begin to understand a little bit more about why surprise is an important part of our lives. And in our very first episode, remember we talked about how emotions notify you of something and then you need to act upon that. So, what does surprise notify you of? Well, in our book, surprise says, I alert you when something is unexpected or something novel happens. That's basically it. Surprise is just saying something unexpected has happened or someone has said something unexpected.
It's important to know the different ways that we can experience surprise. And like we do each week, we tell you about the elements of each emotion. When surprise visits you, you might feel these following things. You may feel shocked, amazed, bewildered, intrigued, astonished, startled, excited, amused, or thrilled. And as Ruth said before, sometimes we just don't like surprise because sometimes we like the certainty of things going just the way we planned.
I don't like unexpected visitors that arrive with suitcases.
I can imagine you at the door freezing for that 1/25th of a second while your brain tries to make sense of suitcase people.
Well, if you like them, it's great. For a moment you're like, oh, it's so good to see you. But if you don't like them...
There's 400% times more emotions happening at that time.
Oh, great. Thanks, Helen.
You're welcome. To go on what I was saying before about we don't always like surprise because we like certainty. Sometimes we can hold really tight to the things that we already know, the way things already are. So we can easily become very closed to surprise and closed to new things, new ways of doing things, new ideas and new opportunities because we may want to stay safe in what we already know. And this is where surprise can actually become your friend because it helps you learn to embrace change and to grow with that change.
And from our book, Making Friends with Your Emotions, surprise shares a really interesting statement, and it says, quote, I'm the one who lights your curiosity and opens the door of your mind to newness. Unquote. So I'm just going to say that once more so you can just think about it. I am the one who lights your curiosity and opens the door of your mind to newness. So we're going to explore that statement and apply it to a couple of experiences that Helen and I have had with surprise.
Okay, so mine's to do with going to university as an adult. When I was growing up, I'd formed this very deep belief that I was not very smart. And I'd been told when I was a child that I was stupid and useless. But I took on that belief that I really wasn't very smart. And when I went to university and studied social work, I was really surprised when I started getting high distinctions. It's like, what?
How did you feel then when you received first class honours?
You'd think by the end of my degree, when I was graduating with first class honours, that I would have my head around that and be quite proud. I was laughing. It's like, me?
Were you hysterical? I guess you were shocked.
I was shocked. I was still like, that can't really be me. But I mean, if I looked back, the marks said that. But I really was in surprise for quite a long time because I had such a long-held belief that I wasn't smart.
Okay, so that's really interesting. Let's look at that. You were experiencing constant surprise. Yeah. And when I say constant surprise, I mean there were so many unexpected things that occurred. So I'm going to relate that now to the statement, I'm the one who lights your curiosity. So how did surprise light your curiosity or lead you to become more curious?
Oh, that's such a good question.
I know.
I love it. The way I think is very simple. I like to simplify everything. So I think that's what kept surprising me, because when I got big assignments and lots of readings to do, I needed to simplify them to make them relate to my life. That's how I simplify. How does that make sense in my world and then other people's world? How do I take this academic stuff and make it fit in the real world? And so it kept making me curious to, okay, well, that worked in that assignment, got a high distinction. So maybe this simplifying style that I have really works. So it made me more curious as to why does it work? And I kept on growing that ability to simplify, I think.
Okay, so the fact that you were surprised at your ability to achieve things and realise that surprise helped you to see that you were more intelligent than you gave yourself credit for.
Yeah.
Which then allowed you to open your mind, to be curious.
Yes, more curious, definitely, because I love learning. So I'd want to be curious to understand, why are we being taught that? What does that mean? I was always asking myself questions. And then really curious to how can I make that make sense in the real world, and how then can I write about that or present a presentation
That's
in
great.
a real way, real life way. I grew so much, not just in the knowledge I gained through my degree, but in the knowledge about myself. What I actually thought was a weakness, that I simplify things, that I make them make sense in my world, I suddenly saw, no, that's a strength.
So that's the beauty of curiosity. To be curious is to see things in a new way and or to add upon something that's already good and to make it better or stronger. So the wonderful thing about surprise is that it lights or sparks that curiosity if you allow it to be your friend. You could close the door on it and just carry on thinking you're dumb. Or
Definitely.
you could see it for what it is and be curious about it and ask more questions and keep growing.
Okay, Ruth, you share your surprise story with us.
Okay. The biggest shock I've ever had in my life was thanks to my wonderful husband, George. Now, all you ladies out there who dye your hair, you know what it's like when you get to a certain stage where the grey keeps coming through and you have this little ridge. So you got to go back and get your hair dyed every couple of weeks. And I was going through that process and I was like, I am so sick of this. And the minute the grey appears, you race off and get your hair dyed. And I just thought, no, actually, I'm going to let it grow a little bit and then I'll just have a short haircut and go grey. And it was a big deal for me. Well, while the black was growing out, the black dye, I got impatient. So I said to George one day, get your clippers, dear, and you can just use them and clip my hair off, maybe at a number 7, which is still reasonable. So there we were sitting in front of the mirror. He got his clippers out. I said, now just double check, George, it's on 7 and we'll go down gradually, because I actually don't mind short hair. I don't mind a buzz cut. Well, I had my long hair, it was shoulder length, and he went straight down the middle. So if you can picture that, it's like someone's mowed your hair. So you got this, what is it?
Track?
Yes, you've got a track of no hair, and then you've got 2 long bits on each side, left and right side. It's such a beautiful picture, isn't it? So that's what my hair was looking like. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was we both went into shock, both of us. That's the unexpected.
Yes.
Because George had the clippers on 0.7.
No way.
Not 7, which is quite long. He had it on 0.7, so it looked like somebody had shaved my hair off.
Oh, that's awful.
So, yeah, that was the most wonderful shock and surprise in my life that I can remember clearly.
So I know me enough to know that that would devastate me and I would have fallen into a heap of, what have you done to my hair? How did that work for you? How did surprise spark curiosity within you in that situation?
Well, if we look at our definition of to be curious is to see things in a new way, well...
You were sure seeing yourself
I
in a
was
new
sure.
way.
Yeah, but it was amazing because I really did learn to see things in a new way, in the sense that I found it really liberating to have no hair. I learned so many things about hair and how people react to hair. I mean, hair is really important, and all of a sudden, when you don't have any, when you have no covering, you're very exposed. You feel quite vulnerable, actually. And not only that, reactions of people were really interesting. A lady at church looked horrified and she wouldn't speak to me. And a young man at church looked at me with pity. I think he thought I'd had chemo. The reactions from people, it really sparked curiosity because I started to think about hair and its importance to me, to people, and also it opened up the door of my mind to seeing a new way. And I'll explain that. What I mean is that I realised that I am more than my hair. Even though hair is important to me, I am much more than that. So there we are.
And who would think that you could learn from such an unexpected surprise, learn those big life moment lessons?
It certainly did spark curiosity, and it certainly did open up my mind to see things in a completely different way. And Helen and I say that part of curiosity is also to add upon something that's already good and to make it better or stronger. That's what curiosity does. And it certainly did that. I felt much better and stronger within myself. And now, no matter what my haircut, I'm fine. Of course we want, we want a good haircut, but I can live with it if it's not the best.
That's a lot of strength.
I'll just shave it all off again. Moving on towards the end of our episode now, Socrates and Aristotle said that surprise combined with astonishment is the beginning of knowledge. And I truly believe that because everything we learn is unexpected. It's actually new. Therefore, it's unexpected. And that's what surprise does. It alerts you to something that's unexpected. You didn't know the things that you've learned before. They're all new. So it really is the beginning of learning.
It sure is.
If you're open to it.
And if you're open, you can think about these 2 questions that we have in other episodes on emotions. These questions are, what's the message? What is the message that surprise has for you? Next time you experience surprise, you could ponder, what is the message? And then what are your choices? Is there a new way to see something? What choices do you have? To close up our episode today, we have a book called Making Friends with Your Emotions. It's 6 beautiful verses where each of the 6 core emotions introduce themselves to you. They tell you why they're here, what they can do for you, and how they can serve you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. You can find links to us in our show notes. And remember, give yourself the gift of time. It's free.
Talk to you next week. Bye. And also, another fact is recent brain-based research.
Now, you know how you did that, the clearing and the chapping? The cheering and the clearing and chapping. It's a blooper.